Welcome to the Courage Barbell Unlimited podcast with your host, legendary powerlifter and strength athlete, Chad Ikes. For most, the journey of strength starts in the gym, but should inevitably expand through all aspects of life. Join us as we discuss all things strength. Now, here's your host, Chad Ikes.
Hey everybody, I'm back, and on today's episode, I want to talk about how should I put this? It's a little bit on the mental side of things, but it still ties into strength and obtaining goals. Probably, I wonder, some people probably think I get a little out there with my thoughts and my mental processes and those kind of things, but that ties a lot into who I am and the achievements that I've made. So as I've gone over a little bit in the other podcasts, I'm in kind of this change in my life where I'm selling my house and I'm going to try to build a barn dominium, which is going to give me more gym space, give me an actual podcast studio so I can expand and try to grow some of these things in my head. And we accepted an offer on the house. I accepted an offer on the house. So this is going to throw my life into a bit of chaos for a while. And of course, I'm an antisocial person. So this is going to kind of test that a little bit. And it's going to test my OCD nature of having things planned out and knowing how I'm going to approach things, because this time I'm kind of winging it, which I'm doing on this episode right now too. But then I want you guys to this is who I am. And I talk the truth and I talk how I feel. And this is it. It's not teleprompted. It's not pre-written. It's me just talking. So over the last week or two, I've been kind of thinking about my past and my life and the things that I've overcome. This morning, I ran across a Marcus Aurelius quote, and I thought, man, I should just do a podcast on this. And the Marcus Aurelius quote is, remind yourself of what you've been through and what you've had the strength to endure. And I totally realize that what I'm doing is something lots of people do. Like I'm not the first. This is really not all that big of a deal. But at times in my mind, if I don't control my feelings and emotions, it seems like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like I had this huge safety net that I've just thrown away, and I'm jumping into something that I'm going to have to learn to accomplish because I don't really know how I'm going to do it all yet. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing. I'm happy to be going through this. I'm happy to be testing myself. I'm excited about everything I'm going to learn going through this process. But emotions just come sometimes, and we have to control them. We have to see the logic and the reality to keep moving forward. Even in my powerlifting, I remember when I squatted 7 and I said I was going to do 1,000. Who in their right mind just says, hey, I'm just going to do this? Well, a dreamer, somebody that goes, I don't know how, I'm going to figure it out. This is what I want to do. Now I got to figure out how to get there. Well, I know where I want to be in 6 months. I have a very clear vision in my head. Now, how can I get there? And maybe it takes 8 months. I don't know. But we're going to find out. So what was interesting, and I'm going to talk about this, the things in my past. But I'm not being on social media and talking about this and being as open with yourself as you are to the public, or being as open to the public as you are with yourself, is an interesting thing. And you're always going to have the trolls, and you're always going to have the people that are going to twist and turn what you say, or they're going to take their perspective on it. And that's just going to happen. So I try to be clear and communicate well when I do these things, these podcasts or posts or anything like that. But the fact is I could be a better communicator. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. I'm still improving. My life has not been hard, but I've had things that were tough for me that I had to overcome. And I'm not trying to compare my life to anyone else. I think comparing your life to someone else is about as dumb as trying to compare a 1960s, 60s football player to a current football player. The game is completely different. The circumstances are completely different. Who cares? So comparing yourself to someone else is just a pointless endeavor to me, especially because we all have different mentalities. We all have different mental toughnesses. We all have different physical toughnesses. Something that might not affect me bad might affect someone else really bad. It doesn't mean I'm stronger than them. It doesn't mean I'm better than them. It just means it affects us differently. For instance, you could have somebody who's just afraid of heights, and then you got somebody who heights doesn't bother them. Well, it doesn't mean that the fear that other person has is irrelevant because this other person doesn't fear it. In fact, I think a lot of courage is fighting the things that are hard for you, fighting the things that you do feel fear for. And actually, I heard Master Shahung Yi talk about jumping out of an airplane the other day. And he was like, I'm kind of an adrenaline rush guy. So for me, it doesn't take courage to jump out of a plane. Like I like that adrenaline. I like that feeling. There is no courage to it. But somebody who's really afraid of heights and really afraid of jumping out that plane that jumps out of that plane, that's courage. So to compare each other, we're trying to compare all these things that we don't really know or understand. So it's pointless. To me, the point is, what was hard for you? What did you struggle with? And did you overcome it? That's the point. So I got to thinking about how all I've really ever wanted in life was to be a professional athlete. Like anytime anyone asked me when I was a kid, like, what career do you want? I'm like, I want to be a professional athlete. What if you can't be a professional athlete? I don't know. I just want to be a professional athlete. I guess I'll pick whatever's best, but that's all I really want to be. And unfortunately, I had a lot of things against me. I've never technically I've been a professional power lifter, but a professional power lifter generally does not make a living being a power lifter because there's no money in it. So I don't really see that as being professional. It's just the highest level of competition. So growing up, I was severely pigeon-toed. I had a bar on my feet at night. I had to wear these patent leather shoes till I was in like 6th grade. Saw all these doctors, was slower than shit. So whenever we played sports as a kid, I was usually picked last. Fortunately, my brother would feel bad for me by that point and pick me most of the time. When people wanted to play tag, that was like my heart just sank. And I would go into, okay, how can I make this better? Can we play flashlight tag or something else that I kind of had a chance at? But you deal with it. You deal with it and you move on. By the time I got in high school, I was training my ass off. I was doing plyometric training. I was doing sprint work. So by the time I was a senior, like some of the freshmen had come up and they're like, hey, you're that big guy that's really fast, huh? And I'm like, well, for a big guy, I'm fast. Because we actually did do some sprints in high school. We ran a 100-yard dash, and like the only guys that could actually beat me were like our top couple of senior guys. So I wasn't really fast. I was just fast for a big guy. And so I overcame that when I was never natural at sports, which is tough when you come from a family who you have a dad who is just athletic as hell and can pick up anything. You have a brother who picked things up super fast. Even when it came to like school and stuff, he picked everything up easy. I always had to work for everything. In hindsight, thank God that I had to work for everything because that instilled a lot of important traits in me later in life. But at the time, it was tough. And so by the time I got in high school and started competing in sports, because we played when I was a kid, you played in the neighborhoods. Like we played hockey on the pond across the street. We got the kids together and played baseball. We got the kids together and played football. Like we would make up our own sports to play. So I didn't really get into any team sports till I got into high school, and I didn't make first string for the football team my freshman year, which is why I started lifting, because I was pissed. And my freshman year of shot put was horrible. I was awful. So I trained my ass off. Like the summers were amazing because that was the closest I've ever been to a professional athlete. My parents paid for my food. I trained all day. One summer I like swam twice a day, lifted twice a day, ran once a day, and then we would play sports all night. And that was awesome. It was like, hey, my job is to eat and train. It was great. I tell stories about I would literally squat until I couldn't physically walk up the stairs. If I could walk up the stairs, I would go down and squat more until I couldn't. Dumb, but it ended up being a good thing. So I do all this work, then I get compartment syndrome. So by the time I'm a senior, I can't run consistently because it's just killing my legs, and the doctors can't figure it out. I was seeing some doctors at Mizzou. I was seeing some chiropractors. I was going to every doctor I could. Nobody could figure out what was wrong. Just in pain all the time. Every time I ran, I'd be in pain for days. And so I ended up going, listen, I'm done with football. I'm just gonna and our team was not doing good anyway. And I went, you know what? I'm gonna put all my focus into throwing. So I immediately started throwing the shot put. Moved out to Nevada because I wanted to go to school out here. I knew they had one of the best discus throwers in the world. I had read about the coach that was coaching, Mickey Cutler, and I love the mountains and I wanted to be out here anyway. So that made more sense to me. And I turned down the scholarships that I had in the Midwest to come out here. After a year or two struggling to get through with that, and again, my compartment syndrome was just awful. We finally figured out what it was, and we had surgery. The surgery it made it a little bit better, but I still had the same problems. And it was pretty much put in front of me that, hey, you had a nasty infection with this first surgery. We don't want to do another one. If you keep forcing this, tissue's eventually going to start dying and it's going to get necrotic and you're going to lose your legs. So what do you want to do? I'm partial to my legs. So I decided, okay, I'm done throwing. Lasted, I think, another semester in school. And I'm like, I can't do this if I'm not doing sports. So that was another hit. And this whole dream of I just want to be a professional athlete. Like that's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to push the shot put and discus as far as I could and try to make it to the Olympics. And that changed. So I've had all these little things throughout my life that are like little setbacks, but then again, they're not setbacks because I never let any of them stop me. It was pretty much like, okay, well, all right, that aspect's out, but where else can I go? How else can I keep moving forward? How else can I keep, trying to figure something out? And after college, I went through a little spell of partying and drinking too much, but I quickly realized that was getting me nowhere. And I started buying motorcycles and rebuilding motorcycles and then selling them and then buying other ones and fixing them up and then selling them and got into some businesses. And eventually I found powerlifting. And when I found powerlifting, I was like, oh, okay, I like this. And after I did a bench meet where I benched on basically a couple weeks notice. I think I benched 405 raw. And then I did a 3-lift meet, totaled 1,700. And then I went, all right, I want to get good at this. I want to really, really, I was 29 and I'm like, I think I can do good at this. I think this is the sport I can push. And so I did, and I pushed it and I went really far and I did really well. And then my mental situation was pretty much diving off a cliff. And if I wouldn't have pulled back, I probably wouldn't be here today. So then that was another change. And, by that point, you're older and you're the window to hit the top best numbers is probably gone. And so I went, hey, I got to lift at this level. I got to put these numbers up, but I'm still healthy. My joints are good because thank God I was intelligent with my training to some extent. I think I could have got through all of my training without pushing my mental stuff as far as I could, as far as I did. But at least I was smart enough to get through it without any real injuries. I had muscle tears. I had some nasty muscle tears, but nothing ever tore off the bone. I have no tendon issues, no ligament issues, no joint issues. So I'm like, hey, there's an opportunity here to help other people. And maybe I can help other people to achieve better things. And I think that's almost, no, that might even be better than like me achieving my own things in the sport. I seem to get more emotional when I can help people achieve things than I did when I achieved it. When I achieved it, I knew I would achieve it. It's not a problem. But to help someone else get there, that's cool. That's really cool. So the whole point of this story is that you don't let things beat you. You don't quit. You just, sometimes you got to find a different way around. Sometimes you got to find a different goal. And now it's growing this podcast, growing a coaching business, and finding the best way to reach the most people with coaching and get a good message out there to help people. And I think it's important to look back, not to live in the past and not to look back at the past and feel bad about the things that happened, but to look back in the past and go, wait a minute, man. I dealt with this, I dealt with that, I came through this, I came through that. Like I can do this. Like I can do whatever's ahead of me, I can handle because I made this. And that can be anything. I'm talking about relationships, life, like anything. This isn't just about strength training. It's one of those things that's universal. Like when you were a little kid, did your parents get divorced? Like, did that hurt? Did that suck? But you came through it, a healthy individual. That means you're strong. You got through that. Did you get bullied as a kid, but you grew up strong and now you promote like beating the crap out of bullies or beating down bullies, or you promote helping kids deal with being bullies? Did you get your heart broken multiple times, but you're still open for another relationship? And each relationship you're trying to learn and get better and make yourself better and pick better people. That's strength. That's all strength. Did you have to file bankruptcy and now you're like, listen, man, I got my financial stuff together. I studied, I looked at it, and I know what I did wrong. We're not going to let that happen again. Did you make it through that? Or did you at one point, I was a little bit from powerlifting and a divorce. I was severely in debt, like way in debt, where I thought, geez, how am I ever going to get out of this? Well, I put my head down. I put a plan together. I got to work. I worked a ton of hours, started my own business, and I got out of that. And now I'm in a position where I can do what I'm doing with this move and trying to grow this other company. That's all strength. Like everything you overcame, everything that you didn't let get you down is strength. You overcame that situation. And I feel like as humans, we have this great gift of adaptation, but this can also be a curse because sometimes we get used to feeling like shit. We get used to being in a shitty situation. We get used to being negative and having a negative outlook, because that becomes habit and it's normal. It becomes normal to us. And so a lot of people have been through some really shitty crap in their life, and here they are, a good person. And maybe they don't think they're strong. Maybe something comes up in the future and like, oh crap, how am I going to get to that? Like, this is going to crush me. Like, no, take a second to look back at your life. Look back at all the things you overcame. And go, listen, I got this in the future because I did all this in the past. And I know I came through. I came through and I'm here. Life has not damaged me. Life has not beat me down. I'm still here and I'm still positive. So whatever you got, bring it on. Let's go. Like, you're not going to get me down. And I've proven through my life that I'm going to keep going and I'm going to keep moving ahead. And that will tie into like your sense of peace that I talked about in one of the last podcasts, where you're like, listen, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to get through this, but you know what? I know I always do. And that's right now with this transition, because I don't have a lot of money to just go, hey, start building this, then I'll sell this, then I'll do this. It's like, no, I got to sell this to start this. Somewhere in between there, I got to keep my income coming in, and I need space to keep that income coming in. And so there's a lot of moving different parts. And I'm like, I don't totally know how it's all going to work. But you know what? Just saying I'm going to do it and starting the process, things are kind of lining up to where it's not going to be the easiest thing in the world for the next 6 to 8 months, but in 6 to 8 months, it's going to be pretty damn cool. You know, I'll get through it. I've got through it before. So I think the whole moral of this little podcast was like, don't sell yourself short, and don't forget what you've been through. And especially don't let people, I think people tend to, and they're probably trying to be positive, you know, like, well, just remember other people had it worse. I really don't give a shit what other people had. That's not important. What's important is what you had. What have you dealt with? What did you get through? How hard was it on you? That's what's important, because it's all different. You know, that's like trying to compare a power lifter in the 70s to a power lifter today. Things are totally different. The equipment's different. The bars are different. The judging's different. The nutrition's different. The things you have access to are different. Like, why even compare? They had struggles back then. They have struggles now. I figure whoever was one of the top guys back then would have also found a way to be a top guy now. So I'm not about comparing them. I'm more like, what did you guys overcome? What are the guys now overcoming? Like, you're both overcoming stuff. That's all that matters to me. You made it to the top. You did more than most people, and you pushed yourself and you kept pushing and you figured it out. And you not only worked hard, but you used your brain, because working hard isn't the biggest thing. Like, working hard and working intelligently, that's what's impressive. You know, so don't sell yourself short. Take the time to look back. Take the time to stop and think about who you are and what you've been through, and find that courage to keep testing yourself and keep moving forward and to keep pushing yourself. And you can you know, you don't have to always do completely new things. Like, if you found the sport that you love and you want to keep doing it, and you're like, hey, I'm a master's now, so, you know, if I'm 60 years old, I'm probably not going to lift what I lifted when I was 32, but I have a goal for this age group in this place. And that's awesome. Like, that's great. And if you achieved something in one area and you something happened and you couldn't do it, so you moved to something else, that's great. If you did, hey, I was like, for me, it's like, okay, I was one of the top power lifters, and I did that. But you know what? I sacrificed a lot to do that. And there's a lot of other things I love. So right now, let's try pushing, you know, the podcast and the coaching and moving more into helping people mentally, spiritually, to be successful. That's kind of more of a goal to me than what my numbers are at this point. But I still have goals. I'm still chasing improving myself. I'm still chasing getting better at things, being more creative, understanding the world as a whole better. So just keep pushing. Always remember who you are. Always remember what you've been through, and go, you can do this. You can grow. You can achieve. You can get better. You just got to stay positive. You got to remember, hey, listen, I'm a tough person. I'm still here. I've been through this, and it's never licked me. I'm still fighting. And that is strength right there. as I say, fight for your greatness. I think every one of us has greatness inside of us, but we have to figure out what it is, and you got to fight for it. Some people they're going to find it easier. Some people are going to let it out easier. Other people like myself, you're going to have to fight for it. You might have to search for it, then fight for it. And you might have to keep fighting for it, but that's what life's about. Keep fighting, keep improving, keep being a positive part of this universe and being a positive part of the people around you, and living your life by example. All right, guys, I'm out. I will talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Courage Barbell Unlimited podcast. For more information, please visit couragebarbell.com. Until next time.